Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our lovely channels here on the YouTubes and the Rumbles. Whatever you don't find over here, you can find on Rumble and vice versa. Thank you all for joining me, and in today's video, we're going to be featuring Andrew Wilson versus Casey Jones debate. Um, Something about multiple wives. Maybe Casey does, I would imagine. I know Andrew is married to Rachel Wilson, who also has a channel and does public speaking events and things like that. She's absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy her content. If you enjoy Andrew, go visit him on the Crucible. All video goes to him. I think he's the original poster because he's got his Crucible icon up in the corner. But without further ado, we got to get the YouTube stuff out the way. You already know this was coming, so don't yell at me. Like, share, comment, subscribe. And if you like their content, subscribe to their channels as well. Um, I don't even know anymore. I've done too many videos. Alrighty, you can visit us on these other YouTube channels, which are on your screen. They're all pretty self-explanatory. Um, and so let's see what Andrew and Casey have to argue about. Ready, go.
Clarify some things so that we're not talking past each other as we kind of start sparring it out here.
Alright,
Uh, I kind of went through your Twitter a bit,
an X-Men.
and you can just kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a polygamist. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
I don't. For those of you who are only listening, they did the intro, and under Casey Jones it says "Wife Training Australia." Ooh, I wonder what that's all about.
um, you're not a polygamist in marriage, though, with anybody, right? That
Yeah. No. Yes. Yes, I am.
you are. Isn't that a crime in Australia to be married to multiple women?
There's there's legalities that could make it a crime, and there's potential ways around those legalities. It
What?
would be a crime under the offence of bigamy if I was to try and legally marry more than one woman in the eyes of the state, and I haven't done that. So I've had um, some beautiful, amazing, wonderful weddings. They've been extravagant affairs.
All right, so maybe I should have prefaced this whole thing with my personal take on it. I don't see the issue with multiple wives. Um, I'm married myself, and we're relatively monogamous. I see clients on the side for various things, which I may or may not get into on this video. So stick around if that's something that you're interested in. So basically, what he's saying is that he's in long-term relationships with multiple women. I don't see anything wrong with that as long as everybody knows what's going on. Everybody can consent. There's rules in place on how each person can flirt. Each person can go on about their lives in a clear, concise manner. And as far as I'm concerned, if all your cards are on the table, and somebody can look at your cards, make their own decision, and if they want to come on board, then more power to you.
With friends and family and adhering to all the traditions that would make a marriage in the Western tradition, with the simple fact that I didn't take that into the Department of Births, Deaths, and Marriages and register it.
I see. Okay, so I want to make
My my
sure.
my
Yeah, yeah.
my
So
my my wife's changed their last name to mine via deed poll. We hung our marriage certificate on the wall and lived as man and wife in a common law marriage.
okay, I see. So I just kind of want to make sure I get this right,
Mm.
um, so that nobody's confused. I'm not going after you for doing something legally wrong. I'm just getting
No,
clarification here.
that's okay.
So you're legally married to one woman, and then other women you've done like a ceremonial marriage of some kind with.
Incorrect. No, I'm not legally. I didn't legally marry my first wife. I didn't see for two reasons. I didn't like the uh, inequity and primacy that would give her.
Like the
Uh,
power.
a potential power, and also that would elevate that relationship as being more significant, more legitimate than other marriages. That's the
I
first
get that.
reason. And the second reason is I'm fundamentally against the state having any say or involvement in the sanctioning of interpersonal relationships. I don't think marriage should be the purview of the state.
Okay, I think I understand the position now. So there's no there's no state marriages going on with any of the women that you're in a polygamous relationship with. Rather,
Mm.
what's going on is that you entered into kind of these different marriage arrangements based on your guys' preferences and this kind of thing, leaving the state out of it.
Essentially.
Okay. So I also don't ascribe to the fact that just because you're married through the state that that makes it a legitimate marriage, um, because of course I'm Christian. I think that legitimate marriage is a
Oh,
ceremony through the church and it has a representation value. What makes your marriages legitimate, though, is my question. So, for instance, if your wife can just walk away, she could just be like, you know what? I'm fucking sick of you and just walk off, or you can just walk off. There's nothing. What is binding about any of this if there's no underpinnings of either religion or state penalty? What makes it any different than just a girlfriend exactly?
I would say that about as much about as much exists to prevent that than would exist to prevent that happening in any other state sanctioned or church sanctioned marriage that I have observed.
I
I
don't know what that
have not.
means though.
Well, what the question was, what's to stop them just walking away?
Well, the
And I'd
question is
say,
what gives it validation absent just a girlfriend who you put on a white dress and you took some pictures one day and had a ceremony. There's absolutely nothing which binds. So in the religious end, the
hmm,
binding is through the religion, and there's actually pretty stiff penalties for violating those things through the church and
well,
through if the state on the state end, there's pretty stiff penalties for this as well. So, what actually makes you bound in any of these marriages is the question. That's what I don't understand.
well, I'd say that the penalties for walking away from a marriage religiously is very much dependent on the religion. Uh,
Yeah, I don't
so
disagree, but it's I
yeah,
mean I mean
if
it's same thing with
yeah,
marriage, right?
I
Or
have I have
state marriage.
I I have Muslim friends who have divorced their wife over the telephone by just phoning them up and saying, "I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you,"
Yeah,
and once they've said it 3 times, that's it. It's
yeah.
done.
I know I get it, but listen to what I'm saying to you. In the
Mm,
underpinning, there's something which is there's a movement to it, meaning if you get married through a church, and let's say it's one of the legitimate churches that does care, not one of these like
mm.
phony baloney plastic banana churches, right?
That would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you there's something there which is supposed to hold it together. There's some kind of greater power which holds this marriage together. Some reason that you did it which is greater than yourself and the woman. Some higher authority which is appealed to, which validates that this marriage is legitimate. I can at least understand why people would look at the state and think the same thing. Whether you think that the marriage should be a state apparatus or not, I just think, regardless of that, what makes a marriage that you have, if you say, I'm married to these five women, other than just the claim, what actually gives it any validation at all?
all right. So I know I let that go on for quite a bit. I don't have a whole lot to say. Andrew's trying to go on the validation route, which I can understand. And that's why a lot of the poly couples that I've met over the years or interacted with over the years have more of a ceremonial kind of a thing rather than anything else. One, it's illegal, so it can't be done through the state. But the other one, um, is that it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial arrangement for everybody involved. And that's why I say lay your cards on the table, make sure you're honest and upfront with everybody about whatever dynamic you want your relationship to go, and then just do it. I think that's the most stable foundation of any relationship or any partnership is to be completely honest in your expectations, lay down the boundaries, lay down the framework, and then just enjoy yourselves. Once everybody knows what's going on, everybody can play their role accordingly. And so poly plays into a man's biological urges for variety, and the relationship plays into the security aspect of a woman where she's going to get either financial compensation or emotional validation or energy or spending time together. So she gets security, he gets variety. I don't see what the issue is. Hopefully, we can get away from this religious bent um, between these two here in a minute because I thought it was going to be a different kind of debate. So, I don't know.
The belief that the person has that it is valid, and I would suggest, and it would be my observations that that's essentially all that makes it valid in the mind of any person who's doing it out of a religious conviction. It's something that's happening internally to their own mind. You might even say internally to their own spiritual soul, if you believe those exist. But it's an internal belief.
Which means that
There are
the
there there there
penalties are
there
internal
are no
beliefs, right?
there are no marauding um, gangs of morality police in any Western society going and rounding up dissident religious wives who have absconded with a man's children.
Yeah, okay, but if you say that this is an internalization and the internalization is what makes it valid, then isn't it the same internalization of their higher belief that also makes the penalties valid, at least to them? Which of those penalties are valid in your mind if you just walk the fuck away from one of your wives? What penalty is there?
I would suggest the same penalty is there for anyone who did it through a religious organization, institution, or through the state.
What are those? I don't understand.
Well,
That doesn't make
well,
sense.
that
The state will take half your shit, right? Give it
Yeah.
to her, make you pay alimony, all kinds of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Religious
yep.
institution will exile you from the community, or to give you any number of other penalties, which are
Yeah, they used
severe,
to.
right?
Mm.
Those are severe penalties. In fact, I'd say the exilement from your community can be a worse penalty than even having to split assets because the state told you to. But even absent those two things for penalties, the other thing is that when you say you internalize the fact that you think that you're married if you're religious, right? You're internalizing it, so you internalize that
Yeah,
all
it's
of
a, it's
these
a it's
things, yeah, that all
it's a
these things
faith
are true. Right? Yeah, sure,
it's a faith based system.
but you would also internalize the penalties too to that system. That's the thing I don't understand is what are the penalties inside of the system of Casey Jones that actually makes these marriages valid? Is there any penalty whatsoever for Casey Jones at all?
I try and keep my penalties reasonably minimal
I'm
in
sure
my
you
planning
do.
for the future. Like I don't think that's an imprudent thing to do given the state of society.
Well, I mean, is marriage about pragmatism?
Fucking oath it is.
Why? Why would you hope that marriage is about what's pragmatic about it?
Well, it's certainly pragmatic from a woman's perspective. I mean, women view marriage as a business arrangement overwhelmingly, and I'm sure you'll point to exceptions to the rule. But women overwhelmingly view marriage as a business arrangement. They view it as something to advance themselves, to be there, to act in their advantage. And women across Western society, religious and otherwise, reserve the right to change their mind at any given point, regardless of what vows they have made, the moment another deal seems more immediately beneficial with no consequence. And the only consequence that you've pointed to thus far, and I'm sure you'll point to others, is that they may experience a certain degree of ostracization from their church.
Yeah, if they're married through the church, which
Mm.
is what the institution of marriage is.
It,
There's
it,
no
it, it,
institution for marriage for you. What institution is there for marriage for you? There's no traditional institution you're appealing to. It's just Casey Jones and chicks say, "Hey, we're fucking married, so now we are," right? Like, isn't that really what's going on?
Or I'd also suggest um, that the institution of marriage, it goes back further than Christianity does.
Yeah, but you're not appealing
Uh,
to those institutions. So who
I'm not
cares?
appealing. I'm not appealing to any institution
Yeah, so who cares? Why would you
because
point to institutions
because
which existed pre-Christianity you're not appealing to for the validation of your
well,
marriage? That's
I'm
stupid.
I'm attempting to give you a honest and genuine answer to your question,
Okay.
and that is that if I'm asked what makes your marriage valid if it doesn't adhere to the tenets of the institution that I may be a part of, I say, well, your institution doesn't own your organization doesn't own that institution.
All right, everybody. Um, I don't, this is not a debate. I thought the title, um, was much more interesting than the content actually was. So, honestly, I don't know. Just leave your comments down below. Am I off on thinking that this was supposed to be a very good debate with, you know, I don't even know. Maybe it's the Australia thing, but he just doesn't seem like he has a whole lot of details to back up his idea. Um, man, I don't even know. This video is not something I was expecting. Well, I guess we're just gonna leave it there. If you like their content, subscribe to their channel. Um, Andrew's all over the place, fresh and fit, whatever. The Crucible. Sometimes he does a cameo with Rachel on her channel. Um, so just yeah, what a day. Have a great day, everybody.